Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bikinis After Babies. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mandy Rashawn, here with your other host, IFBB Bikini Pro, Jillian Hughes.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world. It's been a minute since we've had just time to catch up. We had just a couple of weeks of interviews, and so it's just me and Mandy here today. We have an exciting topic, but as always, we like to start these with some updates, which we were just kind of talking about how this year is so different from last year. And I think that's like very common in like female friendships. So like, anyone listening, I'm sure, your circle of friends, kind of similar things too, of just everyone's on a different path. But,
Mm-hmm.
Mandy, do you want to give us some updates on how things are going on your fertility journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of to talk about like how, you were just saying your female friends and like you're on different journeys. It's so true. Like I have friends of all different ages and we're all doing all sorts of different things. Like one of my
Hmm.
best friends, her daughter is getting ready to get married and she's probably going to be a grandma here in the next like few years, you
Oh
know?
my gosh.
I know. And I just like, I love that though. Like it's so amazing. And just, you kind of see everybody's different like journeys and
Hmm.
everybody's in a different place, but yet you can still support each other and still like be there for them. So I just think about that.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot though, because I don't know too many people in my in my circle trying to have kids, but that's okay. Everybody is super supportive of me. So really, this week I am recovering from a little surgery I just had. If you guys follow me on my social media, I had an ultrasound done a couple weeks ago and they found some scar tissue in my uterus. And with this, it's really important to kind of address this cuz not just for fertility reasons, but it could be maybe like polyps or something, and if it's something you may need to get biopsied, you would need to remove this. So this was more for me for fertility, but it can be for people's health as well. So I had a minor surgery Tuesday morning and got this removed, and I'm not too scared of anesthesia. But I will say I wasn't like, I don't think I've been under where I had like a tube help me breathe, so I was a little nervous for that. But anyways, it went really smooth. It was a really successful surgery. They were able to remove all the
Good.
scar tissue. Everything is clear, everything is healthy. So this is good news for just fertility all around. So
Yeah.
now I'm just recovering and just taking it easy, and that's all I can really do and count down the days here
Yeah.
before I go on vacation.
I know, like literally like 3 days, right? You leave on
Yeah,
Sunday?
I leave Sunday morning, so I have a couple days of work. The my kiddo has a soccer game, and then he goes to my brother's, his uncle's, and we leave for our romantic Valentine's Day anniversary Dominican Republic beach vacation.
Oh, it sounds so great. It's like very cold and gray. It'll be
Hmm.
like so nice to be on the beach. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, here in Kansas City, it even froze. So
Hmm.
Wednesday, it like I woke up and school was canceled. The roads were closed. It rained and it was so cold. Everything was frozen for the day. It was so like nobody saw it coming. And if I mean,
Yeah.
I say that because my dad said he didn't know. My dad always watches the news, so I'm like, well, if he didn't even know, then
Yeah.
I was no way
Yeah.
I was gonna know. So, but now that was my catch up. How has your prep been going? How is everything with the kiddos and their sports?
So, oh my God, it's just a cluster. I feel like I should have bullet points to organize a summary of like how life has been lately. No, so wrestling is about to wrap up. We've only got about 3 more weeks, and then Brady's season will be done. He's a junior in high school, so next year is like his last year of like high school wrestling. So it's been really exciting. It's emotional. Like it's an interesting sport. I feel like wrestling moms can kind of all understand like what it's like to have a kid that's cutting weight and it's so much training, and you know some days, like there's been days where he's been not feeling great and not like the flu and everything has gone through the household and whatnot. So but he's had a good season. I'm really really proud of him. And so yeah, that I feel like January, February are always like really hectic because there's like multiple sports every weekend. Like sometimes I'm at tournaments from like Friday night until like Sunday night. And because we've had cheer competitions as well, we actually leave for Atlanta next Friday. I'm super excited. Like this competition, is it's called cheer sport. It's like very well known to just be like massive, like just, thousands of cheerleaders like take over at downtown Atlanta. So, and there's all these Facebook groups like the crazy moms of cheer. And I've been like reading like, people's horror stories, but I'm like a very positive person and I kind of like the chaos. Honestly, it's so fun. And bodybuilding's been a little
Yeah.
bit like that. And I've, traveled a ton like all over the country for that. So I'm super excited. My daughter's team is really ready. Like they look awesome. They've worked, oh, I love them. They've like worked so hard. And I'm like very closely involved with the team this year. I'm like a team rep. So
Yeah.
I've got to know a lot of the kiddos really well. And I get to be like, behind the scenes with them, like as they're warming up, as they're going onto the mat. And it's been just really special. So it's been a good
Your
year. So
daughter will
that
always remember that. That's
I
what's so
know,
cool.
I know. We've had so much fun. And so we got a bid to the big summit championships in Orlando. That was like at our competition a few weeks ago. So we had a big party for that. So we just planned our big Orlando trip. And so it's a really exciting time. So that will kind of like, that's all going on as I'm prepping. So
Yeah.
like I was doing really well with like these every 2 week updates. And the one I'm getting ready to post now, I'm just going to call it January because it's been like so hard to like just keep up. I had when I was putting it together, like almost an hour and 10 minutes of footage because I've been
Oh,
filming
wow.
everything, but to like
Yeah.
condense it into like a summary of like, here's the prep things, but like packing all my food to go on these weekend trips. We just came back from Indianapolis, on Sunday. And so like we've been just, go, go, go. Right. So prep is good. I feel like after Atlanta, it's going to be, really time to get on the daily posing. I mean, training and food and all of that is going great. Like I feel like my body's responding really well. It's a slower cut this time because we have more time. I also
Yeah.
started my prep lighter. I didn't have to do like a big long build or anything like that. So but I really wanted to start early so that I felt really prepared. I'm just somebody like I'm old school. I like to have more time. Even
Yeah.
I don't like go, okay, I have 10 pounds to lose, I need 12 weeks, or I have 20 pounds to lose, I need 20 weeks. Like I don't really look at it like that, regardless of how far my body has to go. I just like the time. I want to get there and I don't want to feel like, whoo, like that flew by. Like I want to feel really prepared. I want to feel super organized. To be ready early is a really good thing as well. And with the travel schedule, like we have that big summit competition is like the first weekend in May, and my show is June 7th. So I need to be making
Yeah.
progress on all these weekend trips. And like sometimes it's just tricky. Like I had 2 protein bars on Saturday. Like that was like snack and dinner. Like I didn't eat
Yeah.
dinner. And that just happens sometimes. Like, it all fit. Like, I don't really do macros. I have a meal plan, but like when I have to, because I'm, traveling or whatever it might be, like my lunch was like 17 city blocks away in the back of my Jeep, right? I'm like, well, I have to eat. So protein bar it was. So anyways, yeah, like that kind of stuff. It just is, I would say those aren't like necessarily setbacks, but that's not the perfection of that you would need if you only had this like very short period of time. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah. When
feel
you
better
start
about
trying
having
to,
it.
yeah, no, I was agreeing with you. When you start trying to condense and like really, like you said, 10 pounds to lose in 10 weeks, your level of perfection has to be like above and
Oh
beyond. But
yeah.
even then it's so hard to control because something easily could happen that is uncontrollable. So
Yeah.
it's too risky. A lot of money and it's a
Yeah.
lot of stress.
It is, and there's a lot of boxes to tick, and
Hmm.
I do a really good job of juggling it all when we're traveling and have all this stuff going on. But it just for me, it's nice for me to come back and have like at the end of that summit trip, I'll have like a full month of like no more cheer, no more travel, and be able to like just really like kind of lock in. So, and that kind of is how the timeline went last year as well. Like we had our
Yeah.
summit trip last year for cheer, then we had the St. Louis competition, and then a month later I did the DC show. So yeah, so that, and also, for me, I want to bring the conditioning that I brought to my last show to my first show. I don't want to have to take 3 shows to get there because now I'm competing in the pro league. So anyway, so it's going well. I just kind of feel like it feels like a distracted prep, but I don't like saying that because then it sounds like I'm not really doing the work, but I am. It's just,
Yeah.
I can't be only focused on prep right now because of just life and everything. But I think the two can go hand in hand. It's just, that laser focus, the countdown. I mean, I had to check just now to see how many weeks out I was, and it was actually less than I thought. So we'll get there. But
But well, and again, that's kind of like a good segue, like you like to say, into like our topic today, because preps are not always linear. They're not always going to be perfect. You're not
Mm-hmm.
always going to have all of this time. And so many things, like you just said, you had 2 protein bars and you couldn't get your food, but you got it in a different way. Now, it's not always going to be perfect. And to think about how easily you can beat yourself up for that, be like, oh, how am I supposed to do this? How can I accomplish this? This easily leads to our topic today, which is self sabotage, putting a lot of pressure on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and expectations that you set on yourself, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this
Mm-hmm.
is a really good topic. I'm excited that we're going to talk about this today because, it's just something that, people will face struggles with on their journey, and like how some of those things, those expectations and those pressures can like really, they can cause self-sabotage, or they can cause you to, doubt yourself and, maybe stray away from your goal. And that's sad, right? Because this is
It
something
is.
that has brought so much to our lives, and I don't know that people realize the mindset that goes into it. Like, no, of course, like the pushing yourself, the drive, all of that, but the confidence that comes into it. I think a lot of people think like, oh, when I get up there and I have that body that I've seen on all these Olympians, like I'm going to have this body, I'm going to be so confident, right? Doesn't always happen like that. There's a lot of self doubt along the way. And I think that it's something that we see a lot in our clients. And, not that they need reassurance constantly, but, it's common for like women that we work with to be like, I haven't worn a two-piece bikini since before I had these 3 kids, and now I'm going to go on
Yeah.
stage in a real sparkly one in front of all these judges. Like, so I think that the expectations, and just the fear of failure, some of that can really weigh in. So as a coach, like what is something that you see, and maybe in your clients, or maybe that's something that you've experienced in this area?
Self doubt, absolutely. So, something that sticks out that I think will always be helpful in this area is progress photos. Like, which I was, when you were talking, it just hit me. I remembered this moment when I first started competing. The amount of self doubt I had in myself was astronomical. Like, not only just to step on stage, but to like wear that bikini, to do that. I'm like, how am I going to do this? And every day I question myself. And I will tell you, looking back, I had these progress photos that were side by side by side, and they were my side photos. Just, I had those at the time. And looking at them, and just to see like how far I have come, and every time you compare yourself to how far you have come, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe in myself every single time I took those photos. But in reality, I was already doing it. I was already doing everything I told myself I couldn't do, but in reality, I was doing it. So being able to coach other girls, and they come to me many times, and they
Mm-hmm.
are scared, they're nervous. It could be anything. If it's like, let's say they're plateauing on this scale, but that's okay. Let's say, they're noticing loose skin, or they're noticing these things, and it's just like they don't think they can do that. And they get that negative self talk in their head. It's like, okay, we got to reverse that real fast, because
Yeah.
nobody starts out with an Olympian body. Nobody. Everybody starts somewhere, and everybody starts building from there. And what you
Mm-hmm.
need to work on is the process of that build, those milestones, those victories, those joys. And then that's what builds over the course of time to that Olympian body, is really
Yeah.
what I see.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think that, it's hard not to compare yourself, especially if you're like brand new and you don't know
Hmm.
what it looks like at a regional NPC show. And if you've never been to one, you just imagine like everybody up there looks like a pro, and
Yeah.
who am I to think that I can do this? I mean, you have to realize that like, there's all levels of athletes at regional shows, and everybody is starting somewhere, so I think that you can't compare. And I think you do have to have the courage, of course, to be able to strip down. But I think, when you think about your body and all the work that you've put in, you just have to be very proud. And I think that's what really we want our clients to feel like, regardless of how the judging shakes down and who shows up and the score and the placings and all of that, before any of that happens, you have to be proud of yourself and confident that you were able to do something that a lot of people can't see through. Like,
Oh,
people are
yeah.
dropping out of these things all the time. I mean, we see it all the time. We start the year with like 25 girls rehearsals, and by the time we get to the show, there's only 15 that saw it through because of one reason or another, life circumstance, self-doubt, finances, whatever it might be, right? But if you made it, like, girl, like, this is just the beginning, right? So I think people should feel more proud. And instead of just sort of like, I'm only proud if I look like this, it should be really proud of the process and, continuing to improve. And I think like once I was able to like kind of remove my like self-worth from like the judging, and there was a point where I was like, I don't think I can do this for a while until I get to a different headspace, because so much of my self-worth was in like my placings, and so that took some time to work on myself. But you have to you know to know that it's got more to do with just that placing. It's seeing it
Yeah.
through, setting a goal, doing the work every day. Like, you should feel very proud and accomplished for doing that.
Yeah, I think I've always been one to really enjoy my process. And I feel like when you enjoy your process and you look at your milestones, and you can create whatever milestone that may be, but I started doing it in like every avenue of my life. And I feel like that's what made bodybuilding last and still will keep lasting forever.
Mhm.
The judges' feedback was always important to me. Being on stage, looking my best, that of course, putting in the work. But really, what got to me were these like little things. Rather it be like I would do an extra PR, or I would have extra lines, or I would lose inches on my waist. I would be lifting more. All of the things. I could run better. Cardio became kind of fun for me. And I'll tell you a quick little story. I used to, again, this negative self-talk will talk you out of everything.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't, like, I told myself I am not a runner. I don't like cardio. I was that normal bodybuilding girl, like, oh, I hate cardio, blah, 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 right? Oh, a couple years back, I was always training, doing what I do. And I have a group of friends who are sporadic, workout people, don't work out, whatever. And they asked me to do a 5K, a turkey trot. It was a turkey trot. And I was like, I don't run. Like, I'm not a runner. And I just always told myself that. I always was that. And then I realized I was actually running like every morning on my treadmill, and I was actually doing like a 5K, like added up like twice a week or three times a week. And I was like, and one of my girlfriends was like, well, I can do like a half a marathon. I'm like, how? You don't even work out. She's like, no, I just do it. I'm like, how? So I'm like, I'm going to try it. And sure as shit, like it was pretty easy to do something I thought I could never do, because I kept telling myself I wasn't
Hmm.
this person. But in reality, you can accomplish so much. It is so easy to talk ourselves off of something and then go into self-sabotage by eating something off your plan and then convincing yourself
Hmm.
you're not good enough and convincing yourself you shouldn't. But in reality, you are good enough. You can do it. You just think you can't because it's what you keep telling yourself. And once you start changing that narrative, your whole world changes. Like, your whole life can change. I see it in our clients. I've seen it with myself. It's
Hmm.
it's incredible in
Yeah.
our brain, like what we can change. It's
Oh
mind blowing.
yeah. Our minds are so powerful, and I think like, everybody's had that experience of like going into the gym and just being like, oh shit, I don't want to be here. Like, and just
Mm-hmm.
not feeling it. And then the music starts and you start lifting, you end up having like one of the best workouts ever. And you always
Mm-hmm.
have to think about that when you think about quitting. Um, and like one thing that I will say to like a lot of my newer athletes, because they don't know with the experience of being on stage, and I think it's tricky to combat hunger and fatigue and wanting to kind of just like get off the step mill early, or like maybe skip posing practice because they're tired, or like, eat something that they shouldn't because they feel like their hunger is like out of control. And I always say like, these are the tests. Like, we're tested every day, and maybe like going hungry is like something that your body is not comfortable with, or that's something that you don't enjoy, that feeling. It's not pleasant, but you just don't want to get up there on show day and go, shit, I wish I hadn't had, those cookies that I didn't tell my coach about, or I wish I had have done that extra posing practice. Like, it's just a lot of time and money to spend to like have those regrets. You want to get up there and go, I did everything that I could do, like everything within my power, because as mothers too, like this is time and money away from our families. Like we are like the money I've spent on competing, it could buy a lot of stuff for my house and my family. And so it's a luxury, and our time is a luxury, right? So you
Hmm.
just don't want to get up there and be like, man, I really wish I wouldn't have. And I think when people cut corners, like they really do beat themselves up, but I think it's coming from a place of like maybe just not feeling worthy, or feeling negative, or sort of just like, oh well, what's the point, or maybe even trying to control the outcome, of like, well, this will guarantee I'm not successful. So I just think being really present and talking through those things with your coach, hopefully your coach is somebody that can kind of share that experience with you. I mean, I think there are definitely some people in our industry that are just kind of like, why would you do that? Like, why would you cheat on your diet? Like, why?
Yeah.
Come on. We've all had those experiences of where our emotions take over.
Hmm.
But part of this process is not only like growing great glutes and great delts and being an
Hmm.
amazing poser, is building the mental fortitude. And some people just need to learn that stuff. That's why there's podcasts like this. There's a ton of other amazing resources out there to help you really strengthen your mind, so that you have those tools to be able to go, okay, I'm not going to have, you know, a handful of cookies or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cheat on my diet, because I'm worth it to see what happens if I stick this out and execute on my plan.
Yeah. And I know we have that conversation so many times with our clients, because I've had clients that they get so bombarded some weeks. We do our weekly check ins, and I have them and they will be like, I didn't get enough sleep. I didn't drink enough of my water. And it's not because they didn't want to. It's literally because the kiddo was sick. They had to work a lot of hours. Their
Yeah.
kids had sports activity. It's not like, oh, I just forgot to do it. There's always like
Yeah.
so much going on. And it's like, okay, that's just 1 week, or that was just one day. What are we doing to strategize for next week so this doesn't happen? How are we going to move this cardio around? How are we going to, you can't really move work hours per se around, but how are we going to be moving stuff around to be able to do this? Can we change your food? Is there something that you can pack easier? And strategize ways so you can accomplish your goal, instead of just being like, ugh, I just can't do it. My job doesn't allow me to do it. When you have like these not ultimatums, but these defeating factors that you put around yourself and you can't overcome them, you're never going to be the best person you can be. And I
Hmm.
see it's like the same with like, if someone gives you an obstacle and you just accept that obstacle instead of trying to find ways around it, like it's always going to be hard to juggle work. It's always going to be hard to juggle kids. And to say like, oh, I just don't have time for that, or I just can't do that. And you're in the middle of prep and you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Don't do that. You want to sit down and be like, I can do all of this. How do I need to do that? And that's what coaches are here to help you, like, plan that. We can help you with time management. We can give you the ideas, because we've been doing it for 10 plus years. So we've seen all these different ways. Like, one of my key ways like I've helped so many girls with, to me it's very obvious, but is like protein coffee. Like easily taking a scoop of protein and putting it in a liquid that you're going to choose to drink anyways. There you go. You just got 30 extra grams of protein that you couldn't fit in somewhere else because you're really busy at work. And it's just like sharing that with clients and helping them strategize. It's going to make for like an easier way for you to have like longevity in the sport, instead of like, oh, I just can't do it because like all this shit is going on around me.
Right.
Don't be like defeated.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, exactly. I think it's just, being open to like some different solutions, and like talking through with your coach. I mean, the strategies exist. I think it's just, you're learning, especially like a first time competitor, somebody who's not done this before. There's so much to learn. But I think that sometimes like when you think about competing, it's just like, oh, that like looks fun, and you don't really think about all the like perceived pain and like all of the, I don't want to say suffering, like it doesn't feel like suffering to me, but like,
Yeah.
having to say no, and having to deal with, you're tempted by food, and all these different things, right?
Yeah.
So you don't think about that when you first sign up for something like this. And that's just, again, that like I feel like it sweetens the deal, like when you get to show day and you have that experience, it's just like, wow, like that was a lot of
You did
work,
it.
but it was totally worth it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Like I have a client. I'm so proud of her this week. I am, because we've talked about this before on other episodes about how instead of like pigeonholing yourself into a show, that like you just may not be ready for. Why even do it? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like having a client, or if you just in general, like if you're listening to this and you're like struggling with your prep, or you're struggling with, seeing different progress, and you're really beating yourself up and you don't know what to do, and your show's coming up and all of this shit is just stacking and stacking, why are you doing that show? Like,
Yeah.
simple. It's like, why do it? And so there is a show like every weekend for the like every weekend almost. There's no reason to pigeonhole yourself into a show. And I think we're seeing so much more of this. And a perfect example, I had a client that had been really stressed out. She had a stressful job, stressful holiday, things going on, getting sick. And it's like, you know what? Why are we doing this? Like, we don't need to do this. Let's have a completely different approach. Let's completely erase this. Let's change, let's raise your calories up. Let's do this and that. And when you take away that pressure and you take away that stress, and magically everything starts getting a little bit better. So I want to say that story because that client who now feels fantastic, had a great lifts this week, got all her cardio in, had progress on the scale, feels amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We took that expectation and that pressure that she was like putting on herself, and just it's all gone, because we'll pick a
Yeah.
show later. It doesn't matter when. But when you start like beating yourself down over and over,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's uncontrollable how our body is going to kick back at us. Sometimes we can control it and that's awesome, but sometimes we can't. Sometimes our digestion's like nope, sometimes our energy is like nope, sometimes inflammation starts acting up and you can't. So like you have to give yourself a break and be like, am I doing the right thing for myself? Do I need to pick a different show? Do I have enough time? Let me talk to my coach. And don't bog yourself down, because you could be hurting yourself in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's always other shows. And I think I think everybody knows when it might not be a good time. I think
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to have like a clear calendar for like, you know, 16 to 20 weeks to prep for a show. There's kind of
Mm-hmm.
always going to be stuff like in that amount of time, there's going to be a holiday or a celebration or something in there. But like, I would say like, there's like big major life changes going on or things that are like really heavy. And it doesn't feel like a good place to put your mind. Then I think, there's always other shows. Um, but I think to sort of like to take that another direction, like dealing with like the pressure that we put on ourselves. Because one thing that I'll commonly hear from somebody who's never competed before is they'll say, I'm like a very competitive person. And I'm like, well, aren't we all a little bit? Like
Yeah.
nobody wants to say I'm not a competitive person, right? Like everybody is, if you're going to put your work into something, like you want to see the results, you want to do well, right? But
Yeah.
this is not the kind of sport that you can guarantee the outcome because you can't. Like you can
Yeah.
look you can look the most amazing you've ever looked in your whole life and look like a cutout of what they would say is the standard of bikini, and you can still get beat because you just never know who's going to show up. You have a panel of judges from all different parts of the country with all different preferences, and it's all scores, and so you can't control the outcome. You can't. So I think that sometimes it can be hard for people to know, like, okay, what is like my goal beyond just like competing, like I want to win. Well, we all want to win, right? So, and nobody trains for like second place,
Yeah.
right? But I also think it's unfortunate when somebody did all that work, they were in the best shape of their lives, they looked incredible, they find themselves in the class with the girl who ends up winning the whole show, and like the most competitive stat class, and everybody's competed and you're the only person who's a brand new person. So
Yeah.
that we can't control, and that can be really hard. So that's kind of where I'm like, I want people to push themselves as if they're training for that pro card or training for that pro win, right? But at the same time, like understanding that we can't control what happens on show day, and those expectations, we can't expect to
Yeah. You
to win.
never, yeah, you never want to be in prep and still be eating out and subbing your food. You don't want to. I see, not just with my clients, I've seen it forever where, you're eating out and you're like 10 weeks away from your show. It's like, oh, well, I subbed my dinner for this because I went out to dinner with my boyfriend. It's like, no, that's not the case anymore. Like what is on
Mm-mm.
your plan is on your plan. Like you're in prep. You eat exactly what you're supposed to eat when you're in prep. I see, and I've seen this a few different times, and it can be difficult because it's like, oh, well, you know, I did this, now I want to do that. It's like, no, we're training to be the best that we possibly can be on stage. And when you start changing and altering your own food without your coach doing it, then you don't know what you're really doing. And it
Mm-hmm.
may seem so innocent at first, but in reality, it's like, no, we want to stick as close as we can to the plan. We want to do as hard of training as we can. We really want to be intense with our cardio. We don't want to cut corners. It's just in reality, sometimes it's going to be harder. Like you said, rather you're hungry or rather you're tired. It's like, we get to a point in prep where you have to like push through that and not just turn around and make excuses and say, oh, I just can't do it because I'm tired. It's like, you
Mm-hmm.
can do it. We know you can do it because we've all done it. I don't know how many
Mm-hmm.
times I've, like we've said on the other episodes, like watched a whole movie and done cardio every day and still
Yeah.
did it. Tired as I was. But, prep is not easy, unfortunately. Otherwise everybody would do it. That's why, 1% of the world, less than 1% of the world does it.
Yeah.
It's something that's hard. It's something that's challenging, but it's something that you will take and learn from for your entire life, and you will be able to implement that in like every avenue of your life because you can see how hard that you pushed yourself in areas where people are constantly shoving food in your face, always,
Yeah.
nonstop.
Yeah, constantly. Like all you have to do is watch TV and even streaming like has ads and it's Taco
Mm,
Bell and cookies and like all kinds of food commercials. Like it's just food, food, food everywhere all the time. So it's challenging, but I think just beyond that, all the other aspects that make things challenging, like, digging deep and, pushing yourself when you sometimes don't want to. And I think that it can be hard when you've not competed before because you don't really know, like, what if I don't love this? Like sometimes people will say, like, I just want to see if I like it. I'm
yeah,
like, you will, you know,
that's
you'll get
always how it
hooked.
is.
Yeah. you
I
know,
remember every time like I expedited, we have to sit on the stage for the athlete meeting, and so many times we always ask like who's here because of a bet or a dare or bucket list. That's what it was. And people always raise their hand and we're always like, we'll see you again, like because you do. Like it's
yeah,
hard, it's scary, it's so much. But then once you walk across that stage and you walk off, you're like, when do I do this again? Like, how do I do this
yeah,
again? And it's just the best feeling because you did something that's so freaking hard. And that you like, how many times did you say no? How many times did you put up boundaries? How many times did you put your self-care ahead of everything so you could take care of yourself so then you could take care of your family? And it's just, and then you get to show off all that hard work. Like,
hmm,
it's incredible that you get to do that
yeah,
and just walk off stage. And like you said before, rather you're placing, you never know who's going to show up. That's another thing I kind of want to talk about with it is your placing. Like if this is your first or second time, like when you're doing this work and you get judges feedback, always remember your family and friends will say that you look the best. And you, like you said, you probably look the best you've ever looked in your entire life. But
hmm,
it is a bodybuilding competition. They are judging physiques. They are looking for specific things that meet the criteria you are in. And they will give you feedback for you to build on. You want to look at that feedback as something to build upon, not something that's like crushing or insulting or something that you disagree with. Even like you might disagree with it. You might be like, this is the best, these are the best glutes I've ever had. Probably. But they want it to look a certain way so you can beat the next person. So you can move up a placing, so you can be the next best athlete. So
yeah,
you always want to take that and grow from it and not get discouraged by it and not just be like, oh, well, I'll never look like that. Again, don't have those defeating mentalities. Just keep growing. Just keep growing. Like keep swimming, like Finding
keep
Nemo.
swimming.
Just keep growing.
I'd much rather be doing this than swimming, like water sports. Um,
I actually was
but
thinking about swimming the other day.
oh, I can't think of anything
Well, because
worse.
I have to start thinking eventually, I have to think of low impact activity. And so I was thinking about swimming the other day because someone was talking to me about it. I don't remember last time, like lap swimming.
Yeah.
So you're like, no, I'm not. Face is like, no, shut
I don't
it
want to. I
down.
never like let my face get or my hair get wet. I just don't want to.
I
I
think
have bleached hair, so I don't want to put it in the pool. I can't. I'm just not very like buoyant. I guess like ice
you're not
skating.
a water person, huh?
I like water. I'm not like I can swim. I just water sports are not my vibe. How did we start talking about this?
Because we're talking about
Squirrel.
swimming. Just keep swimming. Yeah, you've gotten far.
What's
in your
going to
prep
happen
room.
when you have pregnancy brain and I have prep brain? Like we've had where we both had prep brain, but what if like pregnancy baby brain and then prep brain?
Who knows?
It's
I
going to be
wonder
a
what
mess.
IVF brain will be like. That'll be crazy.
Yeah.
That starts at the end of March. Yeah.
And then you got
End of March.
perimenopause brain over here, I guess.
I already feel
Okay.
like I'm in my queen era.
Oh, do you? That's
I
nice.
kind of do. I don't know. The boys do a good job. That's like earlier this week. Like Aaron made me a little Valentine's basket because I was making fun of him. I was like, "You didn't ask me to be your Valentine," and of course he looks at me like stupid. We've been together for 10+ years or whatever, and he's like, seriously. I'm like, yes, I'm deeply offended and I'm deeply hurt, and I'm gonna be so mad if you don't ask me to be your Valentine. And so he made me a Valentine's basket. I'm like,
Marriage
this is the fun
counseling
part
with
of
Mandy.
just keep
threaten
bothering
them.
him.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I think expectation is something that is tough. Like, you know, I think about like last year with my like pro card win and like the whole journey to that, like hearing people be like, "You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it." And I'm like, you can't say that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not guaranteed. I could be doing
Yeah.
all of this and still not get it. And I'll be back next year. Like, I I had to, like, I think you and I had this conversation one time that I was like, I'm gonna have to be okay if I go this weekend and after this, if this was going into Masters Nationals, there was no other opportunities. Like after that, it was family vacation. I wasn't gonna be able to do North Americans. Like we were at the end of the budget. We were at the end of the season. My body was ready for a break. There was no more shows. That was it. And, you know, I can't control the outcome. All I can control is what I bring. Everybody there is deserving and, you know, everybody wants it. And so I couldn't control it. So I knew I was going to have to be okay if I didn't get it. Like, I didn't want to prepare myself for disappointment, but the reality exists that you can go in there and it can be your day or it's not. So, and people say like, you know, oh, that day I just knew. I've had that feeling so many times where I felt it and then I'm like, well, I didn't go how I thought. So it didn't feel like it was going to be the day until it actually like happened. But I've used this experience to like help my son because he is in his wrestling season and his goal this year was to qualify for state. Found himself in a really tough weight bracket, like the top three in his weight bracket in our district have already they're top three in the state. So like the entire state of Missouri, there's all these different districts and we happen to have the top three in the state in our district. So, you know, that there's only one more spot. And, you know, he's had a good season, but I said to him, I said, you're going to have to be okay. Like, and it's going to be okay. Right. Like, I know this is what you want, but like you also can't go, it was all for nothing. And all that work didn't get me where I want to get. So screw it. What's the point? You have to take this and just continue to move forward. And it didn't happen this year, but you came so close. And we still have, you know, the districts that he's going to go to and try to qualify. But it's just, you know, when you look at the reality of it, you know, it's going to be very challenging. So, you know, I just don't want him to feel like he failed if he doesn't get there. And I wouldn't want one of my athletes who's prepared for sometimes I go people on stage that have been with me for a year because maybe they did 6 months in the lifestyle program and then they were like, maybe I could compete. And then they do, you know, a 6-month journey to the stage. If you've put in a year of becoming the healthiest, fittest version of yourself, and you're going to let a placing dictate how you feel about that journey, like I don't want that for anybody. So I really try to make sure that I prepare everybody for like just feeling very proud, very confident, regardless of the outcome. Because it's like you say, like their friends and family will be like, you got robbed. You look the best.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're looking for and all this stuff. And you can really let that get in your head and go like, well, shoot, like, do the judges hate me? Like maybe I shouldn't do, you know, you just don't want to get to that spot. You want to be like, okay, we go back to the drawing board. We keep building and we're going to do it again and just continue to improve, you know?
I don't know how many people have like have left the sport because of that, because they get so huffy and puffy, men and women, they get so like pissy about that, like that exact thing. And it's like, it doesn't matter how far they came, it doesn't matter what they accomplished, doesn't matter what they learned, they just like take away the fact like they didn't win that show, or they didn't place, or they didn't win their open, or they didn't win the overall, and then they just become so like jaded. It's like, calm down there. Why like, just
Yeah.
take the feedback and keep growing and keep
Yeah.
going. Like, if you look at so many of these like amazing transformations of these like high level athletes, they didn't do that. Like, every athlete that you probably like follow that's at an elite level, they have lost, they have been beaten, they have messed up on their posing, they have wore possibly like the wrong suit, or a improper cut, or crappy hair,
Had
different
something go
colors.
wrong on show day, like a
Oh
little
yeah.
mishap. Yeah.
Yeah, something with their digestion, something with bloating. Like, it amazes me how everybody just, or like people will think everything has to be perfect, otherwise it's like ruined. It's like, it's never perfect. Like, it's
That's
never
such a
perfect.
tall order to have
It
everything
is.
come together absolutely perfect. I don't think there's ever anybody who's like,
Mm-mm.
yes, absolutely everything was maybe Miss Olympia on the day she wins Miss Olympia, but like otherwise, I think every athlete will be like, yeah, this part, this didn't come in the way that I wanted to, or I had this little issue. Like, there's always kind of like something, because like you're really like asking for a unicorn experience if
Yeah.
want everything to be like completely perfect, smooth sailing, and everything to come in perfectly. Like, it should come in very, close to plan and everything, but these things happen, and that's like all just part of being a human being, right? But yeah, I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Sorry, what were you
Yeah.
gonna say?
No, I was waiting. Now, see, now I just had like a brain fart. No, I think back, like what you were talking about your journey to your pro card. Like, I had such an not similar journey, of course, but like I had such a different way of prep last year. And when I
Hmm.
was in prep, man, did I loved the process. I was talking to a lady about it the other day, because I had went, if you can see, I got my Botox, so I look all youthful. My Botox lady follows, us on social media, and she was talking about how great I looked when I was prepping and whatnot. And I was like, I literally loved my entire process. Like, it was so challenging, like to say no during stuff during the holidays, to prep all my food, to go to all the soccer stuff. But I loved how different I looked. I loved watching the progress photos. When you start and like really diving into the process and not the outcome, it's so fun, because like, are you tired sometimes? Sure, you take a nap, you joke about it, whatever, and you just push yourself, and you just keep seeing like how much leaner you look. And if you do like photo shoots and capture those memories, journal about it, like you talk about how you can look at back on the podcast episodes, you really start loving prep. You really start loving the process, and not, oh, what the judges said on stage. And it's just like, you get to do it again with feedback, so you get to prep better next time. So if you start like thinking of it like that, it's so much more fun. It's so much more enjoyable. You take so much more away from it, especially when your kids are watching. You know, they
I'm gonna
really
tell
see
you,
how.
like, that is so true, that it is more fun. Like, that hunt for like that goal. Like, when you
Mhm.
have that thing that you release, like maybe it's I want to win an overall, or I want to win first in my class, like without that, like, because I think I felt a bit lost in this prep this year. I think that's some of what's going on with me too, is just kind of like, okay, for like such a long time, it was like that pro card, and now like, okay, I've achieved it. Like, what am I like working towards now? Like, when I'm working with like all of my athletes, and some of them are coming back to like, with a vengeance because they want to place better than last year, I'm like, yeah, that's so fun. Like, that is like so exciting to like and then like the little wins of like, girl, look at you now versus like where you were
Yeah.
this time last year. Like, there's one of Coach Erica's clients, Josie. She looks so good, and I think about like how far she's come, like as an athlete, like the confidence, and these are just, she had a great physique last year, but just the fine tuning and like coming in this year. Like, I'm so excited to see her get on stage. And I'm like, this is like really fun, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so when you get to that point in this journey, then it can be, you know, just a really rewarding thing and something that, you know, you can take great pride in because like you did that. You changed your body. Like what you put up on that stage is the result of all your hard work. And
Yeah.
that feels awesome. And there's not a lot of that for us as moms, right? Like it's kind of
No.
like, oh, look at my son's science project or look at the little Susie's ballet recital. Like there isn't really
Right.
anything. So this is like our thing. Like this is so
Mhm.
cool that we get to do this, you know? So
Yeah.
you just also like, I think it's important to like, when you have these little people that look up to you, like they don't care what your trophy is. They don't care.
Yeah.
First of all the medals look the same. So, you know, it could say first or fifth on the back of it. You don't know, right? But you're someone's hero. So whether you come home with a trophy or not, your kid thinks you're freaking awesome. So certainly don't be like a Debbie Downer and be like, I got fourth in my class. You got fourth in your class. That's
Right.
awesome. You know, really think about that too. Like show your kids like that you worked hard and then this is what I displayed on that stage. This is the result of my hard work and I'm really proud of myself and you can do the hard things too. You know, I think that's important to think about. Maybe if you can't get out of your head a little bit, like just think about who's watching and the lessons that they're learning from your journey too.
Yeah. And especially when you can like take them with you to the gym and you can like like incorporate them in like what you're doing, like have them help you with your food, show them what you're eating. I remember when like Carson was so little, I would always eat something different, you know, than what he was eating and he would like start asking questions about it. And I could not, he was so little at the time and he liked computers. And I was like, do you know how you take care of your computer and it works really well for you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, this is why I eat this food because then if I eat this food, it will take care of me and my body will work really well for me. And it's just when it becomes relatable to them, they start wanting to make those choices. They start wanting to be, you know, look at things differently. And, you know, I joke all the time now that he's older. I'm like, oh my God, when you actually go off to college and you're like, my mom was nuts. Like my mom did like all this stuff, you know, got up at 4 a.m. to do all this cardio and to, you know, cook her food and to like make sure we had food and showed up to all my stuff and still did all these things, you know. I was talking to one of my clients and scheduling like their travel and training and everything with their kiddos and I was talking about that. I'm like, you know, you start learning, like, if your kids and your spouse and, you know, your circle kind of start really gravitating towards this, you start like incorporating them, you know? Like, I started traveling out of town always for shows because I would make it a vacation for my family and then I could compete and then we could vacation together. It'd be a small vacation, you know, like we'd stay Sunday and leave Monday, but they would have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They could do all this stuff and it'd be fun for them, you know, and so it kind of looped everything together. There's so many ways as you grow in this sport to just learn. Like your first time around, you'd be like, oh my God, this is so expensive. It's like, whoa there. Well, how can we like combat that? You might have to invest, but then look what you're investing in, you know, like take a step back and you can reuse a lot of that stuff. You can travel, you can do this, you can do that. You know, it's not just like, oh, well, there goes all my money. You know, if you, again, not the negative talk, don't doubt
Yeah,
yourself.
turning it
Just,
something positive.
always being kind of grateful. Like, oh, I get to do this. I get to choose my food. I get to have, you know, this amount of water, you know, I get to do these things. And like the fact that you get to, and then it's so much self-care and your family's watching you, it makes you this like really strong being in their eyes and makes everybody really proud and you're proud of yourself. See, you're gonna get emotional. Haven't even taken my pain meds yet. Okay. You guys, I have pain meds that I'm supposed to be taking for my surgery, but they make me a little like, it's weird. They don't make me like sleepy. They just make me very like I don't know, warm and fuzzy, I guess, because I'm a little like high from them. But I told myself I was gonna wait to take them till after the podcast.
And we were supposed to record at like 1 and I was like, I'm running late. Can we start a little later? You're like, sure.
I'm like, I guess
My
I'll
uterus
live with
hurts.
the pain.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Well, not that
It's
we
fine.
really drink, but like there was a podcast. It's not around anymore and I'm sad because I loved it. And it was during COVID. And God, I can't think of the name of it. But it was Camille, she's a judge out of California. and another girl. And it was such a fun podcast. And they did a tipsy episode one time, and it was hilarious. It was
Ooh,
so funny. I think they just drank champagne and they were just
sure.
talking. It was so fun. Sarah something was the other girl, the other host's name. It was a great, it was like on YouTube. I don't even know if it was actually on a podcast, but it was really funny.
That'd be so
So
hard for us to do to like time it. Cause I'm thinking, I'm like, that'd be fun for us to drink wine or something kind of cutesy, but that'd be so hard to time
I
between like
know.
your preps and me trying to like get pregnant. We'd have to, like,
Yeah.
that'd be so
So
hard.
in 2028, we're going to have a tipsy episode.
Uh,
Oh my
that's
gosh, that's
crazy. Cause I don't
crazy to
even,
think
that's
about.
one thing I don't know how that works with like your IVF. I'm just not going to drink cause I don't think you're supposed to with all the drugs and everything, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah,
that
probably
works.
not. Just keep the liver nice and clean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. All the stuff you have to like process all the injections and everything. It's so much.
Yeah.
So much. I have one more. What is, yeah, so just now February, so I have till the end of March. So I have one more cycle, and then after that cycle, then I start my IV medications because you have to start it on cycle day 1. And so I can't do it as I'm healing this cycle. So it goes into next cycle.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, but I get like anybody listening, again, if you follow my social media and my posts and stuff, like, thank you everybody that's like always reaches out to me and tells me like all these really good stories. And I like love it because, like I said before, I would never share like my fertility stuff, just kind of just kept it to myself. And every time I try to look stuff up, it would just be sad. Like it would be how hard it is to do these things, all the drugs, all this, just sad. And now that I talk about it so much, I get so many messages of all of these stories and they are so amazing. Like just amazing. And I just like thank everybody who like shares their stories with me or their friend's story or like sends me good vibes and prayers, and I just like it means
Everybody
so
has a
much.
story. Like every time you make a post, I'll see people commenting underneath, and it's new people every time that are like, I went through that. Let me know if you need
Yeah.
anything. Like the amount of community and support is like, it's so awesome. And these might be people that like never like paid much attention to your fitness stuff, but now that you're like sharing like very
Yeah.
personal things, like it allows them to like connect to you. And so I think it's great that you're sharing, because I think that we're definitely in a time where it's more like talked about. But I was listening to an interview with Teddy Mellencamp, and she went through IVF over 10, 12 years ago, and it just wasn't
No.
talked about as much. And
No.
you just feel so isolated, and like there's like a stigma for some people. They feel that stigma exists, and I don't feel like it does anymore. Like I feel like from my experience of just seeing people like that are my age, that maybe they decided to start a family later in life and had some challenges. It's like it's very common now, for people to be
Yeah.
pursuing that. And it's wonderful that we have the science and the technology to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I like that it talks about it more for the younger generation because there's so many people, whether you want kids or not, and you just don't know, like, at least you can take responsibility and be like, hey, can I have this checked? Hey, can I look into this? Like, hey, can I do like XYZ? And like, just be able to know like what you're getting into, because I've seen so many times where you're like, I didn't know this was going on. I didn't know this was going on. And I will happily bash on the medical community for not having shit organized. Because one doctor will send you one way and another doctor will send you another. But like if you want to like make sure all of your reproductive system is healthy, it is a step-by-step process. It is not like one thing. And it's very frustrating. But like if you want to make sure your tubes are okay, your uterus, your hormonal levels, your eggs, your ovaries, it is a step by step, and you want to like check everything. And then like I wish that was talked about more when I was in my 20s. So I could have been more responsible in my 20s. So I'm really grateful for that. So that's a little tangent, went on a little tangent, but I do love this episode because like we see it a lot with new competitors, so much with like they're so hard on themselves, there's so too much negativity, and in reality you're doing something so great and you're gonna look back and be like, man, I did this, and so that's what we know, and we're excited to get you there.
Exactly. And I said this on Saturday, when I was traveling for cheer. I did like a little thing in my story of sort of like all the food I packed, and my
Yeah, I saw
workout in the
that.
morning. And like I just feel like it's the end of the day, it's self-care, but self-care is like the most selfless thing that you can really do, because if you take care of yourself, and you don't have to have some elaborate routine. Like everything that I do goes on, nobody really sees it. Like I get my workouts in when everyone's at school or when everyone's sleeping. My family doesn't sacrifice the foods and celebrations that they want to enjoy. Like all these things that I do for me, like help keep me healthy so that I can be strong and healthy to take care of them. Like it has, of course, like these are things I'm working towards, like for my goal, but also, just taking care of myself means that I'm a more positive person. I'm a healthier person to be around so I can,
Yeah.
be there for everybody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, Jillian and I can be reached at any of our social medias. If you have any questions when it comes to coaching, lifestyle, prep, posing, or just have general questions, or may want to hear something about on like a topic for our podcast, please message us, DM us, and then always, no matter what platform you listen to this on, please like, subscribe, share with friends, share with family. We're always here to help anybody that's willing to, want to better themselves, rather like it's in prep or lifestyle. That's what we
And if you
love.
are
So,
in the St. Louis area on
oh yeah.
Saturday, February 8th, which is 2 days from now, well, we'll air this tomorrow, so it'll be the next day.
Yeah.
We are having a little seminar at the gym that I attend or I go to in Chesterfield. It's called House of Pain.
Yeah.
Attend a gym. No, the gym that I train at, House of Pain, is giving me their seminar room to have a little stage ready workshop for women in the area. There's going to be people driving in from near and far to be a part of
Yeah.
it. We're going to do some live posing demonstration, some posing rehearsal, lots of discussion about the fit model category and suits and presentation, posing, beauty, glam, girl stuff, Q&A, all the things. So that's going to be
So
Saturday,
fun.
February 8th. We just didn't have a chance to announce it on the podcast with our last two episodes having
Oh
recorded
yeah.
those beforehand. So
Yeah.
hopefully everybody can attend. We'll probably do another one, but with the spring season kicking off soon, I thought this was great timing. So
Sure.
if you would like to attend, that's 2 to 4 on Saturday, February 8th at House of Pain Gym, Chesterfield.
That'll be exciting. So hopefully you
Yeah.
guys can go to that. And again, thank you so much for listening. Bye guys.
Bye.